Hi, I'm Larissa from Beekeeping Made Simple, and this video is about quite possibly the most useless piece of equipment you can buy to put on your Langstroth style beehive, otherwise known as the inner cover. Inner cover looks like this. It is about the size of a lid, but has a big hole in the middle and this wooden rim. Now there are uses for this thing, but I personally don't have any on my beehive. So I'm going to go through what people say the uses are for this inner cover and how to use it and the reason why I don't use them and my experience with them. So they say that the inner cover can help with circulating air, and that is because it allows a gap for the bees to use as an entrance and to fan their wings to help circulate the air. However, as far as I'm aware, you need to either put a notch into your inner cover if yours looks like mine, or some beekeeping supply places already have a notch in one of the sides of your inner cover, which would go on the front, ideally, you know, where the other entrances are. And that can help give the bees an extra entrance and helps with ventilation. And it helps the bees circulate the air. However, I personally, the time that you would need your bees would need that extra ventilation or an extra entrance like that up top is usually when there's a big honey flow coming in, and you can easily just take like a little rock or a stick and put it in one of the corners under your lid and actually prop it up just a little bit then. You also do need that upper entrance ventilation when you are winterizing your hive over the winter. Ventilation is very important over winter. People often think that the most important thing is to keep your hive warm, but actually the moisture is what often kills your bees. And so allowing that ventilation and that hot air to chimney up and out and giving the bees a way to get out through the upper entrance is very much a good thing. However, you can also just drill a half-inch hole into that uppermost honey super, and that's an entrance as well. The other reason why they say that you might want one of these inner covers is because it makes it easier to take the lid off, which it does. It prevents the bees from propolizing the lid down on the hive. Really, that is just a matter of taking your hive tool and just prying the lid off. I've never found a hive's lid to be propolized that badly that an inner cover was really all that helpful. So that point really doesn't make it worth it, in my opinion, to have an inner cover. When you have one of these over the uppermost box of your hive, if you're going to put a feeder in your hive, now this can be a time that it's helpful. You can put your feeder over this hole in the center, or you might just have a shallow dish with some rocks in it and some honey in there, and that can sit right here, and the bees can go through just this little entrance and go to the honey. And so this prevents having a big empty super on top of your hive that bees could be creating all kinds of bird comb inside. I've never had that happen. If there's a time in which you need to feed your bees, there's a very slim chance that the bees are going to be building a whole bunch of honeycomb. Usually when you're needing to feed your bees, it's a dearth or a low nectar season, and the bees need to consume a lot of honey in order to secrete wax. They need to secrete wax in order to build honeycomb. So they're not going to be consuming all of this honey in order to build comb unless they have an excess of honey. And so it never really seems to actually be something that happens. That being said, some people like to play it safe and use the inner cover. Some people say that it helps with insulation. However, I mean, there are 4 sides to this beehive, so that don't have this insulation, so I don't really see how that is a valid point. Now, when you do have an inner cover, you can buy a bee escape, which is a pretty cheap little piece of equipment that does go into that center oval, And that bee escape prevents bees from getting up into your super. So what you would do is put the bee escape into your inner cover, and then you would put this in between your honey supers. And so when bees get out of the super through the bee escape, they can't get back into the super. So this allows the beekeeper to spend just a couple of minutes clearing out their beehive instead of half an hour. So in short, the inner cover is not a necessary piece of equipment. However, it can make winterizing your hive a little bit easier. You can put this on under your cover, and when you need to check on your bees, you can just prop that cover off and see what's going on right through that hole, instead of opening so much of the hive and taking that cover fully off and disturbing more of the hive. It also is a way that you can provide just a little bit of ventilation and a small entrance into your hive for the winter time. Is it necessary? Not really. And in warm climates, I would say completely unnecessary. And by warm climates, I mean climates in which you're not having to overwinter your bees. Your bees aren't clustered up in the daytime for weeks at a time. Even if there are low nectar seasons when your bees aren't very active, if it's not going to be freezing temperatures out, I don't think an inner cover is necessary. So how do you use the inner cover? Well, this inner cover has a gap on both sides, so it's really not much of a difference how I use it. You just put it on right on top of your uppermost super, unless you're using the bee escape to get bees out of a super, and you would put the telescoping outer lid on top of it. You cannot use one of these for the migratory lids. This is a migratory lid, and this is just a lid that does not have a lip to go over the edges. This is what they used at the bee farm I worked for, because they move their bees 3 times a year for whatever flowers happen to be blooming. And so you don't want to use this style lid, which is just a lid that doesn't have a lip. When you're moving bees, the beehives are very close together, and so you don't want a lid with a lip, because then you fit fewer hives on your truck. But if you're not moving your bees, then a telescoping outer cover is the best way to go. It is more expensive, but it protects your hive from rain getting into it, or potentially even snow. I've also found that when it's really windy out, it's a lot easier to strap that cover down. You put some rocks on it, and it can get a pretty good seal on the box, much better than just the migratory cover. The migratory cover, when a hurricane was coming, we would actually screw it down into the bee box. If you have an inner cover that has a lip just on one side but not the other, the lip part is going to face upwards, so that when you put your lid down, there's a gap between the top of your inner cover and your lid. However, if there are times when you have something like a pollen patty that is sitting on top of your frames, you would then want to flip your cover over so that there is a gap between the top of your frames and the top of your inner cover. Now again, if you have a lip on both sides, not necessary. If you need more of a gap, maybe your pollen patty, you made it and you made it way too thick, or whatever you might have going on that you need a little bit more of a gap, you can always take popsicle sticks or some kind of very thin wood like a shim, and just put it on the 4 sides right under the inner cover, and that'll prop it up just a little bit higher. So if you're buying a beehive kit and it comes with one of these, hold on to it. Don't throw it out. But not incredibly necessary for you. However, is an extra good piece of equipment to put on your hive when winterizing it, just as an extra little way to give the bees a way to get out of the hive and to allow moisture to get out without, yeah, that's it. But personally, I prefer drilling a 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch hole into a honey super. And that is because I think it's a little bit easier for the bees to find than that teeny little hole in the inner cover. If you have uses for an inner cover that you'd like to share, if you use your inner cover and it's been valuable, if you have anything to share that could change my mind, even just the slightest, into why it's worth paying extra money to buy one of these things, please leave them in the comments. I went to multiple places to look up the purposes of the inner cover. I tried my best to find uses for this thing, and this is the best I could find. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so that you can receive an email notification next time we put out a video. We put out a new beekeeping how-to video every single week. And if you're thinking about getting started keeping bees, check out our free guide, the 7 steps to getting started keeping bees, at beekeepingmadesimple.com. It is short and sweet and everything I wish I knew before I got started. Thanks for watching.